everyone, so summer is officially upon us, and at the beginning of every season I sort of look at my makeup products, look at my skincare, all the sort of things that I use, and I just kind of change things out that are more kind of suitable to the time. So for instance, now it is blazing hot, it is so warm, so I just kind of have been using things that are more summer appropriate, you know, better for heat and just different colours and things. So this is going to be a sort of summer edit, all the different products that I kind of incorporate into my routine when summer comes around. This is going to be the first of two parts. I'm going to split this into two separate videos. The first one will be makeup, nails and fragrance, and the second will be skincare, hair and body. So there's going to be quite a few things, quite a few new products, things that just really work well in summer. So starting off with makeup, and it's probably the hardest of most things to kind of get right because it's going to be really hot, and if it's going to be really sunny, it's just hard to kind of find things that really stay well and stay put where they are. So you want to find a really good base, something that's really going to stick to your skin, and the easiest way of doing that is using a primer beforehand. So I've got two here that I know really work for my skin, really help my makeup stay on well, and the first one is the Mercier Oil-Free Foundation Primer, and this is nice because it's really light and refreshing. It doesn't feel too drying or too matte, but it just kind of creates a layer between your skin and your makeup, and it just kind of stops any oil, any shine coming through, and just helps it stay a lot longer. The next one's a little bit more heavy duty, and it's the Hourglass Mineral Veil Primer, and you don't get a lot for your money here. This is the smaller size. It's probably the most ridiculously priced primer I've ever seen, but it is really great because it's very mattifying, but it doesn't feel drying at all. It almost feels quite moisturising and very lightweight, very thin, like you've just got a kind of like a veil over your skin that just stops your makeup coming off. It just really helps everything stay where it should be. So by using primers you can kind of get away with a wider range of foundations. You don't necessarily have to go for the really long lasting, really mattifying ones. So I've got a few here depending on, you know, the kind of coverage you want. The first one is a BB cream, and this is the Vichy Idealia BB cream, and I really like this, I think, for just a really natural look, so kind of like a weekend makeup, a day off look. It's not got too much coverage, but it's better than I'd say most BB creams, but it does feel very light. It's not a really greasy, really oily one, but it still keeps a bit of hydration in your skin, so I find it's probably the longest lasting BB cream that I actually own, but it just gives a nice fresh natural look to your skin. If you do want something with slightly more coverage but you still want to keep that radiance in there, I think the Bourjois Healthy Mix is just an amazing foundation. I've probably worn this more than anything over the last month or so, and it just gives you, you know, pretty good coverage, but it doesn't feel heavy again. It just really sits on the skin well. It feels light, it feels fresh, it's not clogging at all, but it will give your skin a nice even tone to it. It doesn't last, you know, quite as long, but like I say, with the primer underneath it will stay a bit better, but it's a really nice everyday foundation, this one. If you do really struggle though to keep your makeup on, I think I found the perfect kind of long-lasting lightweight foundation, and it's Double Wear Light, and I always kind of kept looking at this and I was slightly hesitant to get it because, as you know, Double Wear is a really full coverage thick foundation, but actually this is a very lightweight finish. It has the same kind of, I want to say, like setting power as Double Wear. You can kind of feel it drying down and really sticking to the skin, but it just gives you a really light coverage. It doesn't feel heavy, it doesn't feel like you're being suffocated like you can do with some foundations. But I actually saw Lisa Alges using this on one of her kind of long-lasting makeup videos, and I bought it because of that, and I'm so glad I did because it's a really great long-lasting but really lightweight feeling foundation. So one thing I kind of struggle with quite a lot in summer is the big powder debate. Do you or don't you? I always try to avoid powder if I can because I just don't like the kind of matte, kind of dull texture it gives to my skin, but there's been a few products that I've discovered recently that are kind of the opposite of powders. So the first one I have is the By Terry Hyaluronic Hydra Powder, and this is kind of quite funny stuff. It almost feels like snow. It's really light and it's really kind of white, and it just goes invisible on your fingers. As soon as you touch it and kind of rub it in, it just melts away. I like to kind of press a really light layer of this all over the skin, and it almost feels like it gives you, you know, more moisture and more hydration rather than drying your skin out like a powder usually would do. It's actually made up of hyaluronic acid, so it is very hydrating. It keeps, you know, moisture locked into the skin, but it does really set your foundation down. So if you want something that's gonna, you know, set it like a powder but not feel heavy and cakey, this is great. And the next one has probably been my favourite makeup discovery of the last sort of year, and it's the Hourglass Ambient Lighting Powder, and there's such a hype surrounding these, and honestly it is completely worth it. These are so amazing. This is the colour Dim Light, and it's basically just a really kind of natural looking colour. I'd say it's like a natural powder sort of colour. It doesn't really have any noticeable shimmer to it, you can't really see any glitter or anything in it, but if you dust this over the skin, again, just sort of like press it in lightly, it just gives your skin like an instant radiance, but you can feel that it's really set it down. So it's basically a powder that has, you know, a real glowing finish to it. I do sometimes take this out with me in the day just to kind of top up my makeup, and usually when you put the powder on top of, you know, foundation and powder already after a few hours, it does look a bit cakey, but again, you can just reapply this and reapply it, and it never looks too heavy or too much on the skin. So that's pretty much your base set down and ready to go. And then for colour, I do sort of prefer to use powder products, so powder bronzers and blushes, depending on how hot it is. So if it's a little bit cooler, I do like a cream blush, but if it's going to be really warm, I don't want that sort of like dripping down my face, so I do go for a powder most times. I don't really tan at all, even if I do try, so I'm always looking out for a good bronzer that's going to just look really natural, just warm up my complexion. And the best one I've ever found is the Clarins Bronzing Duo, and this is the shade Light, and I find that you can put layer upon layer of this on and it just never looks too heavy, it never looks too cakey or too dark. And I kind of put this all over my skin with a big brush and then just concentrate it on my cheekbones as well, on my forehead, anywhere I'd naturally catch the sun, and it just gives you a really lovely glow, a really lovely warmth without looking like you've got too much on. If I do go for a blush, I kind of like to pick something that's quite natural and pink, so nothing too bright, but just something that's going to look like you've naturally flushed rather than put like a kind of bright colour on there. So I've got a couple here. The first one is a cream blush from Bourjois, and this is such a pretty colour. It's number 3, and it just blends out to be a really kind of natural little glow on your cheeks. And then the one I have on today is Benefit Hervana, and I've kind of fallen in love with this a bit over the last few weeks. It's kind of a mix of almost like a purple colour and then a few pinks, and it's got a little white shimmery highlight in there, so it's almost like a blusher and highlighter in one, but it just looks like a real natural rosy pink that doesn't detract too much from the bronzer as well. I do like to go for quite a bold bright lip in summer, so I like to keep my eyes quite natural to kind of like balance the whole thing out, and I just tend to go for literally one eyeshadow swept across the lid, really simple, really easy, but something that's going to last quite well too. So if I do go for an eyeshadow, I'll always use a primer underneath, and this is the Decay Primer Potion, quite standard for an eyeshadow primer. I'm sure everybody uses this, but it's just really nice. It's quite light, you just blend it on your eyelid and it kind of brings the colour out in the eyeshadow too, but it really helps it stay. And then if I have been using a powder eyeshadow, it's been this one from MAC, which is Bronze, and it's a really pretty bronzy brownie colour, as the name would suggest, and it just gives your eyes a little bit of colour, a bit of definition, but it doesn't look too much on there. I do also really like long wearing cream eyeshadows because I think they're just so simple, so quick and easy to put on. You just literally dab it on your eye, blend in with your fingers and go. And this one from number 7 in the colour Bronze, again, is a really pretty colour. It's kind of more of a cool tone bronze, so it's not as warm as the MAC one. But it just gives you, again, a bit of definition, a bit of colour, but it looks very natural and not too heavy with a bold lip. I've also been using a mascara from number 7, and this is the Stay Perfect Long Lasting Mascara, and you've probably heard me talk about this quite a lot because it's my new favourite thing. This basically does not budge. I've always had problems with smudging and flaking with my mascaras. They just never seem to last past, you know, a couple of hours, but this stuff just doesn't come off. It pretty much looks the same as when I put it on in the morning to when I take it off in the evening. So, you know, if you're looking for a mascara with amazing lasting power, this is just brilliant. It actually gives a really nice look to the lashes as well. So with some lasting mascaras, they tend to look a bit, you know, spidery, a bit clumpy, but this gives a really nice defined volume, so, you know, ticks both boxes in my opinion. So last of all in this makeup section is probably the most important thing I'd say, and that is lip colour. And I do like a bright bold lipstick in summer, and I've actually done a video on my top 5 favourite bright bold lip colours, so I'll link that below if you want to go and watch it. But I've got a few other things here. They've actually just brought out, I think, the Maybelline Baby Lips in England. Don't get too excited, although I did. These ones I actually ordered from America, but I think as I speak they're going to stores. So this week, you know, end of July, beginning of August, you should be able to get hold of them. But I've got a couple here. These are the colours Cherry Me, Coral Crush and Melon Mania. And these are really nice if you don't want anything too heavy. So they're pretty much lip balms, but they have a really kind of good colour pigment in them too. So they give your lips a nice, you know, tint of colour as well. So they're really great if you get quite dry lips in the hot weather, and they also smell amazing, really fruity, really summery, so they kind of get you in the summer mood as well. I will just quickly mention a couple of bold ones. The one I have on today is kind of quite a recent purchase, so it wasn't in my last video, but it's MAC Impassioned, and it is just a bright, bright pink. It's kind of similar to Girl About Town, which I do have, but it's just got slightly more of a warm corally edge, whereas that one's got more of a bluey undertone, so I think it's just such a nice pink shade. And also I have the Maybelline Stay With Me Coral, which is one of their Super Stay 14-hour lipsticks, and I've had this for so long, but I always come back to it. It's just like a rosy pink. It's a really nice bright but like not too harshly bright pink. If you want something that's more, you know, slightly more on the natural side of things, this is such a great one, and again, it just lasts so well. Probably my favourite though of all the lip products at the moment is this Hourglass Opaque Rouge Liquid Lip Lacquer, and it's basically just a lip gloss almost. It's got a funny little doe foot applicator and you just put it on as you would do a lip gloss, but it is so intensely pigmented and it kind of dries down and gives you this really kind of like set in colour, so it's kind of quite matte. You can't, you know, it doesn't transfer at all, so it's really long wearing, but the colour of this is just amazing. It's like a really bright orange. It's got a slightly bit of, you know, slightly reddy undertone in it too, but it's just a really lovely bright orangey lip. So that's the long one out of the way, that is makeup done, and moving on to the second category, which is all about nails. And usually I'd be, you know, really into like minty green colours, really pastel-y, like lavendery pink sort of shades, but this year I've just been all about the bright colours. Same with lips, I think. It's just something about this year. I've just been loving bright shades. So I've picked 5 of my favourite colours, and you can probably see that they're all quite similar. One of them's a bit messy, I think it's leaked, so sorry about that. But starting off with my favourite one, and it has to be Essie Watermelon, and this is never a shade I would have usually gone for. It's a really kind of bright pink. It's got sort of like a purpley blue undertone, but it's just a really lovely shade on the nails. It kind of matches my lipstick a little bit as well, so I've been a bit matchy today. It's just a really bright, kind of fun, pretty colour. Not the sort of thing I'd usually go for, but I've been really loving it at the moment. And then another one from Essie, which is the one that's kind of spilled all over my carpet at the moment, is Fear and Desire, and I think this is from their last year's summer collection, so I'm not sure you can still get hold of it. I'm sure there'll be something quite similar, but it is a really intense, bright, pure orange, and I love this on my toes. I think it's just a really nice, like, bright shade for that. There's something about an orange nail polish that I always really go for, and it's almost bordering on neon, so yeah, a really bright, intense one, that. The next one though is pretty much a bright neon, and this is Nails Inc Portobello, so if you're looking for a really bright, pretty much like glowing shade for your nails, this is a really nice one. It's kind of pink. It's like a corally pink, I'd say. It's quite warm. I think this one would look amazing with a tan. Now when it comes to nail colours, I am really not a red person. It just doesn't suit me. It makes my skin tone look really strange, but I've actually been really loving one, and this is the Rimmel Salon Pro with Light Cream. This is one of the Kate Moss colours, and it's called Hip Hop, and it's kind of like an orangey red, so it's still pretty much like a bright red on the nails, but it has a slight kind of orange undertone to it, and it's just really pretty. It's really bright. It's really quite intense, but I'm really surprised that I've actually been liking a red colour, and I've been wanting to wear this all the time. So if you're looking for a red and you don't really suit them all that often, try this one out. It's really nice. And then last of all, one kind of slightly pastel shade has sort of slipped in here, and this is the Sinful Colours nail varnish in Island Coral, and it's again a really pretty pink. You're probably sick of me saying the word pink by now, but I really like these nail varnishes. They're only $1.99, but the lasting power and the formula and the finish of them are just really great, so they're really worth getting, and they're so cheap. They do have a really great range of summer colours out at the moment, and this is my favourite one of all of those. But it just gives your nails a really pretty look to them. It's slightly pastel, but still quite bright, although not as bright as some of the other ones, but that's my favourite kind of muted down summer colour. The last category in this video is going to be fragrances, and when it comes to like perfumes and smells and things in summer, I can be a bit funny with them. They tend to give me like a headache, or they can make me feel sick sometimes, so I'm kind of quite particular about my smells. I don't know if that is just me, but if you are similar and you know you don't like anything too heavy, this is a great one. This is Molecule 01 from Eccentric Molecules, and it kind of doesn't really have too much of a noticeable smell to it, so when you're wearing it on yourself you only get like a slight like vague fragrance. It's supposed to kind of work with your natural scent and give off like a really lovely sweet smell, but a lot of people say that they can't actually notice it on themselves, so it's great if you want to be smelling nice and fresh, but you don't want anything too heavy in your own nose. It's also great for layering too, so putting this on and then something on top just really adds to the smell of it. It just really tailors it to your own scent. Another really summery fresh scent that I've been loving is Philosopos from Diptyque, and this is a really figgy smell. It's kind of quite different to your average summer fresh scent. It's quite deep and musky, but it is still really light and refreshing, so it's a nice one to wear if you don't like those really sweet and sickly perfumes. And then last of all I have Bronze Goddess from Estée Lauder, and this is probably, I'd say, my favourite of the three at the moment. It's just edging it, and it's a really lovely kind of warm coconutty smell. It smells just like summer holidays, and whenever they've brought this out in previous years I've kind of smelt it but never been too excited about it, but this year as soon as I smelt it there was just something about it. I don't know if they've changed the fragrance slightly, but I had to have it, and it just is really, you know, warm and refreshing. It's quite deep. It's not the lightest of perfumes, but it will make you feel like you are on holiday. So that is the end of the first part of my summer edit. I hope you enjoyed that. The next one will be up in a few days' time, and it'll be all about hair care, skincare and body products. So I hope you enjoyed watching that. I hope you watch the next one as well if you want to see a bit more about my summer products, and I will see you all soon.